You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, Super Friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
That's Steve with an S.
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 60. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and all your normal podcasting devices. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear hole. Woo! Steve, how are you?
Very good, very good. Episode 60, 5.5 years from retirement. How you feeling?
You know what? I'm feeling old, man.
Yeah, man. Tennis balls on the bottom of the walker, just like old man Solo.
I need my Metamucil.
No, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I actually just got in about an hour ago because the kids called me home from work early to go sledding with them. So,
ooh, fun.
Bundled up. We had some snow on the ground, which has been a fleeting, elusive thing this winter, and so
right, we
had to go take advantage of it. And the kids have been dying to try this. It's kind of like a sit down. It almost looks like a wave runner type sled, which it's got one ski in the back and one ski in the front, two skis in the back, and you kind of sit on it and drive it like a jet ski for snow that goes down hills. Anyway, and so they have been begging me to try it. So we finally got to take it out, and it's fun, man. It turns on a dime. They can like scoot down the hill, yeah, and kind of carve back and forth. And
did you go down Dead Man's Drop with the kids?
No, I don't know what that. Oh.
In Michigan, where I lived for like 3 years, between ages like 6 to 9, there was a bunch of hills, and there was one called Suicide Hill, and at the bottom of it they called it Dead Man's Drop because like the last, it was really steep, but at the last bottom part of it, like the last 4 feet had just been like cut away, almost like an earth mover had like scraped the mountain out, and so like you literally just go down this like hill super fast while trying to also kind of stay in the lane and away from the trees.
Right.
And then just in the bottom, like it would just drop out 4 feet. And so you would just like try to hold on, and Dead Man's Drop, man, on Suicide Hill,
that
Okemos,
sounds
Michigan.
Horrific.
I can tell you that a few kids broke bones over there. Sure.
Well, you have all different kinds of sleds, right? You've got kind of the crap ghetto sleds. You got the nicer sleds. And we have
what would you
of those.
Consider a crap ghetto sled? The Saucer?
The Saucer's the lower end middle, I would say lower end middle, but the crap ones are like those plastic roll up ones that are like,
oh yeah,
like
it's like a sheet of aluminum foil.
It's like one of those curtains that roll up in the cartoons. And so we have a few that are kind of like those. They're like plastic mats. They don't roll up because they're more of like a plasticky neoprene, kind of a little bit of a foam to them, but they're basically the same thing. I mean, they're like a big sheet of foamy plastic that has no edges and is just like anyway. And so my daughter, last year, we have this one in Northbrook that's pretty darn steep. It's got 3 different layers, and she, of course, goes right to the top layer. I'm like, this is pretty high. She's like, no, we'll go down. So she wants me to sit down, and she sits on my lap, and I kind of hold these 2 little handholds. But again, it's just a single sheet of whatever.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's nothing. So we're going down, and of course, because it has no like grooves in it, you just kind of like start to spin and slide about and all the rest. And so we start going sideways, and then we're going backwards, and we start to hit these bumps. Well, my butt like hops off the sled, and of course she's still in my arms, in my lap, and my bottom hits ground, and we're going probably a good like 20 miles an hour, and I just fly back my head, bam, right on the ice. Ooh. And so I just like kind of crumpled into a pile of flesh and clothing, and she's like, Daddy, are you okay? I'm like, just leave, Daddy. Just tell Mommy to wait a few years before remarrying.
Right.
And I mean, it was painful. I had a headache and a stiff neck for like a month.
See, at least you have that for your kids. We were so poor that we had to put Ziploc bags over our boots with rubber bands to keep them on, and that was our sled.
That was to keep your feet dry, not as
sure, whatever.
Do you ever remember those
slick?
Those things? It was like the sled underwear, where like there was like these, it was like this these pants that you would put on over your snow pants, and they were almost like rubberized diapers where you put them on, and then the butt was like a sled. It was like a plastic like with grooves sled. Yeah, look it up on the internet. It was big in the 80s, and you would just put these pants on, and you could just sit down and sled down on your butt, but it was like the bottom was made of like a harder plastic.
So, like, I imagine you wearing these, like, snow pants, and then the equivalent of, like, underoos over top.
Like a huge Depends, like, oops, I crapped my pants style.
Yeah,
like these huge yeah.
So you look probably like the worst superhero ever.
Well, I didn't have them. I just saw them. I don't know if you ever used them. No.
Yeah, sure you didn't.
Or you always had like that one like kid, the bully on the hill that had like an old school like radio flyer runner sled with the like the
metal
runners like sharpened, and he'd like look for the helpless little kid. He's like, bingo, and he'd like aim for them, take him out at the ankles.
Get that fat kid. He can't run. Yeah.
That's right.
It's always how it was, right?
Oh my gosh!
So, I'm sorry I did that to you. I really do apologize.
Right, exactly. So yes, we did that. Weekend was good. I took the kids to go see Coco, which I think we're going to cover in a little bit of a sidekick podcast in the next 7 to 10 days. But great movie and enjoyed it.
Got a little surprise for that too, don't we?
Oh yeah, we do. A little surprise. And generally the week has been fair to moderate.
Nice. Well, over here, we've been fighting this like whole cold thing, like end of last week, like my kids had this cold and my wife had this cold, and I've been kind of okay. I've been living dangerously. I just, I've been around everyone at work is getting this thing, and I've been okay.
Finishing the kids like cereal and stuff. You're like, I live on the edge, but I don't care.
Yeah, I'm just like totally just like licking their toothbrush after they go to bed at night. Yeah, living dangerously.
Kicks up the immune system. That's fine.
As Aerosmith says, I'm living on the edge. So then like Saturday night kind of happens, and all of a sudden I start feeling a little congested, and I wake up Sunday morning and I'm like massively congested. And I feel like foggy, like just no matter what I do, I've got like a low-grade headache, and I'm just like, I can't concentrate on things. So I got up, I went to church, I pumped myself full of Dayquil and some decongestants, and I was like, okay, I just got to get through this. Just make it through church, help the wife out with the kids, come back home, and then I slept for like 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And I ended up waking up last night and still not feeling great, and so I kind of took it easy and went to bed early. Like this morning I woke up and I felt pretty good, but like I'm kind of feeling it starting to come back again now. So I don't know if like I actually skirted it or if I just, I got a little taste of the horrendousness that's about to take place in my life. I'm not sure yet, but...
Yeah, it's always kind of a hit or miss. You're like, we'll see. I dodged that bullet, and then suddenly it gets you when you least expect it, like getting shot in the back.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. So other than that, like we had a good weekend. I went and saw the movie Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle this weekend.
Really?
Yes,
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Karen Gillian, Kevin Hart, Jack Black.
Yeah, star-studded cast.
Nick Jonas is in the movie.
I thought you were going to say canon. I was going to say, let's shut this thing down. Right. Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Shoeless Nick Joe Cannon. Yeah, exactly.
It's a thing. We know that.
Let me tell you, I was surprised at actually how much I enjoyed this movie. Of course, I went with my movie pass because I wasn't going to pay for it. Otherwise, I would have waited until it hit Netflix or something.
Right.
But you know what? Like, man, the movie was better than I thought it was going to be. I had a lot more times where I found myself laughing. It didn't betray like the original movie, but yet it kind of was a retelling in a way, but not enough that like it made you feel like this is just a direct copy.
Right.
So it was pretty good. I've been surprised.
Well, let me ask this though. If you're at Costco, maybe Costco's a bad example, but we'll use Costco. So you go to Costco and like you get, a little bit of a sample of like a little steak, like a Philly cheesesteak. You're like, man, this is really good. Or maybe you go somewhere and you go to a restaurant and you realize it's the grand opening. So you go there and you're like, oh, we don't have to pay. This is awesome. Everything's comped. And doesn't it taste a little bit better because it's free? I mean, is that kind of what's happening here? You're like, you know what? I liked it, but I liked it even more because I know I didn't pay for it at all.
No, I won't say that only because Jumanji topped the box office again for like another week in a row now. And here's an interesting fact, and this isn't in Rebel Intelligence, but just something I read this week. Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle has surpassed Justice League at the domestic box office already. Justice League. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and all the rest. So, like, people are going out and seeing this movie, and I think that there's kind of been a buzz where people are like, yeah, their first preview that came out looked like it was dumb. But I went and saw it, and I really liked it. You should give it a chance. And people are going and seeing it. Brita went and saw it the next night with her sister. She really liked it, too. She said that she thought it was a lot better than she was anticipating, a lot better than the preview looked. And, yeah, she really liked it. I don't know if it's the movie I'd go out and buy, because I've seen it now, and, you know, I think I'm good. But, you know, I was pleasantly surprised.
So is the trick then for Hollywood to set a really low bar with crappy trailers and then actually have a good movie? Is that kind of like the little... And then it's like you've been low-high. You're like, my expectations were really low for this movie, and it was actually okay.
You know, I think in some cases, Steve, that could work. But if you set your expectations so low, it will just keep people away.
Right. You wouldn't just,
right.
Go.
So I think you have to be careful with that, but I think it's not a bad idea to like put out a good trailer, but not a great trailer. Something that's going to pique interest, but not give away the whole story, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad everyone enjoyed it, and Guns N' Roses gets some royalties. Yeah,
there you go. Right,
Rose get a transplant.
Other than that, man, everything's going well. I'm keeping up on my my commitment to myself.
Nice.
I'm still eating healthier. I am getting cardio. I am down 15 pounds after 2 weeks.
That is fantastic, man. Woo!
Yeah. Just, keeping at it. And our Hopper to Hellboy community we've got going, the accountability group, we've got some more people who have jumped in and joined. And the thing about this is so cool. And this is why I love our super friends. And, you know, just this great community of people is that everyone's positive. Everyone's like there saying like, hey, I want to do better. You know, I want to do more. You know, let's encourage people. Let's kind of status update every so often and see how everyone's doing. And it's been good, man. Like I've had some people, you know, give me some ideas for some like workout stuff I should look at. And I've seen other people talking and sharing recipes and just, you know, it's good, man. It's real good.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. For my side of it, I had 2 salads today. One with some ahi tuna, which was delicious, and
got to get those amino acids, right?
And mercury. And then I had a salad tonight for dinner. I've been doing I've been running in the mornings. It has been a little cold though, and it was funny because we do what's called room captains, which is basically when our kids they clean their rooms and they come down and they get to do the little room captains that they're in charge of cleaning. And so Carter had gone out and was going to vacuum the sunroom, which is where our treadmill's at. We've got a TV out there and some other stuff. And suddenly I hear, Dad! And he comes in and his hand is blackened, almost like Dumbledore's shriveled hand from the wand fight.
Whoa.
I'm like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I plugged the vacuum in and it just sparked and is black. And so the outlet out there is all blackened and his hand was, he's like, it doesn't hurt. It was just a big spark. And I had the prongs on a plug had gone out on that vacuum. So I cut the cord and put a new plug on. But I think what happened was it kind of jiggled loose. And so one of the wires internally in the plug hit the other one and it connected and blew up. So now, long story short, he's fine. And I redid it again and the vacuum works fine. But now the fuse is blown or the plug is fried on my thing where I plug my treadmill in. So I'm like, I can't go running on my treadmill. And it's really cold to run outside. So
let me tell you, those are easy to go replace, man. Go down to Home Depot, Lowe's. It'll cost you like $1.50. You just swap it out.
Oh, yeah. I just haven't had a chance. Anyway, taking the time.
Right.
It happened on Saturday, so I've been busy.
Oh, gotcha. So,
anyway,
I was waiting for you to say like the vacuum died, so I had to go get a Dyson.
No, we have a Kirby, man. That thing is expensive, and it weighs like 127 pounds. My kids can't even bring it upstairs. Like, Daddy, you want to vacuum my room? So I got to lug that thing up and down the stairs all Saturday.
But does it clean well?
It's okay. I should have bought a Dyson. Anyway.
This podcast brought to you by Dyson Vacuums, right?
And sued by Kirby.
Right,
it's a wash.
Exactly. Oh, good.
Very
good,
cool.
Good. Well, man,
cool.
I'm glad you had a good week.
Yeah, you too. You too. And congratulations again about the weight. That's awesome. That is crazy. That's like a leg, man. 15 pounds. That's a
it's a leg of a child. Yeah, a child's leg.
A turkey leg at medieval times.
Right? Oh, let's not talk about that. That's making me hungry.
Yeah. Double up.
Yeah. What do you say? What do you say, Steve? Should we move along and get into some old Rebel Intelligence?
The acronym RI, also Rhode Island. Let's do it.
All right. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Steve, Rebel Intelligence, man. What do you have for us this week?
This week, first thing I've got is Walking Dead. I know that you're a fan. I know that some recent occurrences have maybe soured you a bit.
Sure.
And in fact, I heard recently in some recent episode in the last 6 months that two other like main characters have been killed off. I heard it from somebody at work, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, it really kind of put me kind of was off-putting a bit." But regardless, the masses have not been turned away, as it was just announced that Walking Dead has been renewed for a 9th season. So that's a good thing for fans.
That's a long time for a show like that, I would imagine.
Yeah. And Scott Gimple, not to be confused with Dimple, is now, he was the showrunner since 2013. He's been bumped to CCO, the Chief Creative Officer, overseeing the entire Walking Dead universe, and co-executive producer Angela Kang has now been promoted to showrunner chair. So
I wonder if they're going to do more stuff, because I know they had that spin-off show called like Fear the Walking Dead.
Yep.
And obviously there's the comics, but like I just wonder if we're going to start getting more Walking Dead stuff.
Yeah, Charlie Collier's president of AMC did say that they were going to kind of together dream bigger, and I think he was kind of laying the groundwork for additional spin-offs and money-making projects. So
here's my question: when is Disney XD going to have some Walking Dead children's cartoon which focuses on like little kids in the apocalypse or something?
That's right.
It's going to go everywhere.
Walking Dead, the nursery edition.
Right. You stole my binky.
You stole my brain.
Right, exactly. Well, Steve, speaking of Movie Pass, so I got the Movie Pass, right?
Oh, I was like, who's speaking of Movie Pass? Oh, earlier in the conversation.
Telling you earlier. Yes. And I told Gabe Patillo about it, who was our guest for the Last Jedi Movie Club.
Which was so awesome. If you haven't heard that podcast, go back and listen. So much fun.
Absolutely. Which is funny because like, when I got my card, because it was funny, he texted me a picture of his like welcome email, right? So then nice. when I got my card, I texted him a picture of my card, but I put my finger over the numbers, except for like the last 4 numbers, right? Because it's a MasterCard that they send you, and you have to be within 100 yards of the movie theater. You check into the movie, it puts the money on the card. You have 30 minutes to go make your purchase. So I go up to the kiosk and I swipe it and I'm good, right? I got my ticket. So anyway, I took a picture and I sent it to Gabe, and he's laughing at me. He's like, "What? You don't trust me? You don't trust me?" I was like, "Man, I trust you. I don't trust your son, Remy. That boy. Ooh, look out." And so he was laughing. So then when he got his card, he took a picture of his card, except he put his hand over the entire card. So like his name, the numbers, and all you see is like the little top part that says Movie Pass. Dude, I was just laughing so hard. But Movie Pass though, like I'm in love with this thing right now. We've used it twice already, but Movie Pass has passed over 1.5 million subscribers, and
wow.
they've picked up 500,000 subscribers just in the last month. So obviously they used to be $50 a month for this service, and then it took a big drop down to $10. And even on Black Friday, they ran a $7 a month promo.
Missed that.
Yeah, so we missed that. But I'm gonna look for it when it comes time to renew. Maybe I'll purchase one as a gift, and then I'll switch to that one or something. But 1.5 million subscribers now are using Movie MoviePass. So I'm thinking, those box office and shattering numbers from last year are going to go down thanks to MoviePass goers.
So let me ask this though. Let me ask this: Is there a concern that this is not sustainable? I mean, if they buy the tickets from the movie theater or AMC or whoever the provider is, and then they sell it to you for $5 to $7 discount, is it just that they get information from you, like Facebook, and so they're able to sell that to third parties?
So here's the thing. They've done their research, and they found that the average movie ticket price in the country is like $8.75 a movie ticket, which around here, that's not the case. It's like $12 a movie ticket around here now.
It's 15 here.
And unless you go to like the $5 movie night that's like once a week or something, like on Tuesday nights. But in other places, obviously, it's cheaper. So they have this average. And so basically what they do is they're paying, they pay more in some places, less in some places. But for $10 a month, basically on someone like me, I'm going to go to a $12 movie every single time. So they're going to lose money. But what they're doing is they're collecting the data that all these movies that people check in on, and they could say, this many people with MoviePass went and saw this movie, or this many people went and saw this movie. And so they're collecting data as far as like movie watching, trends, and then they sell those to the big studios.
Data drives the dollar.
And so the studios are paying for that data. So in reality, they're not losing a lot. Now, my guess is the big price drop down to $10 a month from $50 was that at $50 a month, they were making money that way. Then they probably figured out that they could sell the data on the movie watching habits, drop it to $10, and they could operate at a loss on that portion because they're going to sell the data. But right now, I mean, think about it. They just gained an extra, 500,000 people in the last month. There are over 1.5 million people. That's potentially 1.5 million people that are going to be going out and seeing movies. That's a big sample size for data to sell to studios.
Oh, yeah.
So they're probably doing all right for themselves.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. I would just hate for, you and 1.4999 million people to, do this, and then, suddenly it goes under and you're out of luck.
Yeah, but if I'm out of luck, it's like $10 a month, and then, if it goes under, they just stop, charging my card, and I can just, talk to my bank and put a transactional hold on it.
Or do they? Yeah. My wife did the same thing with a gym. They kept charging us. We had to take them to court.
Right. Well, that's a gym, though. Like, you sign contracts. This is basically like you just pay for it month to month, and you can quit at any time. Yeah. So.
Well, cool. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you're already using it, man. And I'm
man.
It's just sad to hear that Gabe doesn't trust you.
Well, I mean, I didn't trust him to start.
It's like the key in Seinfeld. Like, you have a key to his apartment? Well, yeah, you have a key to... You don't?
It's just one of those things where, like, I realized it's only like a MasterCard debit for this one thing, and that's the only way it can be used. But I'm like, I probably shouldn't put my numbers out there.
Texting that out there.
Yeah.
Too funny. Very cool. So a funny kind of thing that I thought was notable to mention was that... let me pull up the article here.
Was it a potent, potable, notable?
Oh, a potent, potable, notable. So, if you are traveling abroad, sometimes it's kind of fun to see different things. We've talked in podcasts past about the Stuntman, Hall of Fame, the largest ball of twine, just funny things to see on road trips and traveling abroad. But if you're ever in Sweden and you don't want to look at some of the traditional Swedish meatball factories and other things that people would visit Sweden for, you can actually go to, there's a Klingon museum that is, it's the Institute of Klingon Culture Exchange museum. And it's opening this month or next month in Stockholm. And you basically can go there and learn all about culture. There'll be opera, there'll be Terran Klingon lesson sessions. We're getting to grips with etiquette and language and all the rest. So,
wait a minute. You're talking Star Trek Klingons.
The one, the only, yes.
So Klingons are descending on Sweden to set up their home base, is what you're telling me?
It's actually happened, yes. No, what? It's got, dedicated Trek fans flaunting their Klingon know-how and...
Okay, why Sweden? That's That's the thing I want to know. Like, what made them decide, like, I want to set up a Klingon, museum.
Because back in 1932, a piece of the planet Klingonian had burst into pieces and it actually lodged deep into the heart of Stockholm. And so those that have come to Earth have drawn their power from its source.
Wrong.
Look, they get a good tax break there, okay? Okay?
It's just interesting that the Klingon Empire is settling in Sweden. I'm not saying it's a bad place to settle. I'm just curious as to why.
They love the meatballs. It's very close to their...
So here's the thing. I'm really curious about this. Obviously, I don't have the funds to fly to Sweden just to check out this Klingon museum.
Oh, but if you did, I'm sure
Center.
You and Brita would be on the next flight.
I don't know about Brita so much, but listen, if I had a lot of wealth and I could just do whatever I wanted, yeah, I would do that. I would fly to Sweden and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Stockholm, I'm gonna check out some stuff, I'm gonna go to Bern, in Switzerland, and like kind of tour around that area. But one of my stops has to be the Klingon Cultural Exchange Center. I imagine it like kind of like the version of like the Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii, PCC, but it's all Klingon, so they're gonna have like big meals and like activities, and they're gonna recite William Shakespeare in Klingon, and
they'll also have a luau. Be like, we just wanted to throw it in there.
So here's the real thing. We need to get our Swedish listener to go check this thing out and tell us about it.
Yes. Yes, that would be awesome.
Please, whoever you are out there, if you can go see this thing or have friends that see it or something and give us a report on this thing, I would love to hear about it on the podcast.
Are the overzealous fans frightening to children? That's what I want to know.
Right.
or to adults.
Oh,
yes.
man.
So let us know if you can stop by. We're talking to you, Mr. Swede. Stop by and do some reconnaissance for us. Some Klingonaissance is what we call that.
Some Klingonaissance.
See what I did there? A mixed friend.
Yeah.
I'm not going to explain.
Yeah, I got it, but it's bad.
All right.
Wow.
What do you got for us?
So something that's interesting, Steve. I mean, we're really excited for, the big Marvel movie that's coming out this year, Avengers: Infinity War, right?
Definitely.
But Black Panther, originally when I heard it was released, I was kind of on the fence. But now, there's, I've seen some of the new trailers. It looks really, really good. But here's the funny thing: Black Panther is selling out. It's ticket sales for ahead of time on websites like Fandango. And one of the stars of it, Lupita Nyong'o, couldn't even get a ticket herself. She went to try to go to get one for opening night, and she couldn't even get one. So she kind of went to Twitter and kind of talked about it. It was like, I wish that I could get it, but I'm kind of glad it's doing well, and that all advance tickets have sold out. So it happened within the first 24 hours. So it'll be really exciting to see how this movie does, because obviously it'll be the last Marvel movie before Infinity War drops in May. But this story is not going to be, it's not going to be like the traditional kind of, Marvel stuff we've seen before.
Right.
It's in a place that we saw a little bit of at the end of Civil War. It's in Wakanda. It's going to be, with T'Challa and some of these the warring factions in his own group. And I'm telling you, man, this thing looks good. I'm excited to go see it.
Yeah, it does. That's crazy. That kind of sellout, though. I wonder how much she would pay for a ticket. Scalp one for her.
I'm sure that the studio's maybe going to do some sort of special screening for, I don't know, some
You would think, my gosh.
Right? But anyway, I'm excited for this. I'm pumped. I want to see it. I'm going to try to get to it opening weekend. So
very cool. Very cool. Well, speaking of things that are black, Black Widow has actually been approved for a standalone movie. Marvel, they have hired a writer, Jack Schaefer, to write the screenplay, and they confirmed a Variety today that it's true, that we're going to get a Black Widow standalone. So if you are a fan of Scarlett Johansson and her flaming red hair, then you will be happy to know that it will be coming out in the next year or so.
Let me ask you this. because I know a lot of people on the internet, and I've talked to a lot of people, and they've been clamoring for a Black Widow movie. How do you feel about the idea of a Black Widow movie?
If I could summarize it in one word, it would be a 3-letter word, and it would be meh.
Here's my take on this. Black Widow is a spy, right? She's originally a
Russian
Soviet spy. Yep. So she ends up kind of joining with the Avengers, and I hear people say she's a superhero, and that just kind of bugs me because I'm like, she's a hero.
Yeah.
She's a
like
spy.
a police officer or a fireman.
Right, exactly. But like, she possesses no super abilities. Now, great.
Neither does Batman. Let's be honest here.
Well, he is rich though, so.
So it's a class thing, huh?
No, for Justice League. You remember that line, Justice League, with he's like, "What's your super ability?" He's like, "I'm rich." And that was his line. Anyway, here's my thing though with Black Widow is like, I would be interested to see a story about her, but maybe more of like, maybe in a team up film, maybe not her own. And it's not that I don't want to see like a powerful woman story told, because obviously I loved Wonder Woman and I know Captain Marvel's coming out, right?
And you love women, so that's
And I do love women. But it's just like, I feel like we got some of her backstory in Civil War?
Yep.
And it's just like, I feel like there's just, I don't know, maybe there's not enough to explore going back. So if it's going to be a standalone movie, like,
exactly.
What is it going to be? I mean, her just kind of organizing kind of the new version of the Avengers? I don't know.
Yeah, no, they're the same thing. I don't feel like there's enough fodder to pique my interest. You know, like, again, there's a lot of spy movies out there. There's a lot of,
right.
I could watch Jason Bourne and put a wig on, on Matt Damon and be good. And that's basically what we'd have there. So,
let me call Matt Damon and tell him you want to see him in a wig.
Well, didn't he do that in Thor Ragnarok? He wore a wig.
Yes.
There you go. Done and done. But yeah, so it is often kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like when you see all of like the Avengers running and it's like, Captain America and Iron Man and all the rest, and then you see like Black Widow, I'm like,
Hawkeye
doesn't belong. Yeah, like Hawkeye, like he shoots arrows.
He's Robin Hood.
He's Robin. That's right.
Robin Hood next to the Incredible Hulk. I mean, there's a little bit of a difference. I'm just saying.
He did have Little John as his sidekick, so it could work.
I'm not saying that I don't like those characters, because I do, but I don't think they'd be able to carry. Now, I don't think the characters maybe could carry a whole movie. I think Scarlett Johansson can carry whatever she wants, and I'd be happy to see her in almost anything. But I'm just saying.
I was waiting for it.
Anyway, so Steve, we talked about the TV show American Gods a while back ago that was put on Starz. It's based on the book American Gods by Neil Gaiman, and we kind of talked about how like it was really successful in its first season, and then like the showrunners Brian Fuller and Michael Green have like exited the show and they've left. Yeah. And then also like one of their bigger stars, Gillian Anderson, has left the show as well. And so maybe they're going to write her character out for the second season. But a lot of fans have been wondering like what's going on. Well, rest assured, the author, Neil Gaiman, while he's not technically coming in to showrun the new show or the second season, he is going to be taking a more active role and making sure that like things are where they need to be, and like it's got the kind of right tone and the right writing, and it's in the right place. And so I know that's kind of it's a kind of an olive branch to the fans of that show and maybe the book, that knowing that the author's going to get involved. Because for me, anytime a movie's based on an author's work, if the author is involved in it, it always feels like you get a more true experience. Yeah, it's more true, more full to the true experience of what the book is. Whereas, movies are like, and it's loosely based off this movie, and the author decries it, in social media. It's like, well, okay, maybe you shouldn't have sold the rights then, but
yeah.
A big pile of cash. So anyway, so that's going to have Neil Gaiman helping, maybe we'll say shepherding the second season along somewhat.
Well, that's good to know that he's still involved. So it's something. Last thing that I have is, it's always interesting, I think, when studios have to kind of jockey for position, right? It's all about when a movie comes out at the right time and what else is going to be released at the same time. So we kind of had a situation here with Deadpool 2. 20th Century Fox, they've got 3 different kind of mutant-esque films on the docket. And in a surprise move, they actually moved up Deadpool 2, which was, I think, slated for its original date of like June 1st.
Okay.
And they moved it up an entire, I think, month to May 18th. And they did so because they wanted to get out of the way of Disney's Solo: A Star Wars Story, which comes out May 25th. And as you can expect, maybe not so much with Jumanji and Last Jedi, but they wanted to kind of get out of the way and make sure that they had their own space and can have their own time in the box office.
Okay, that I get. However, look at that timeline, though. Avengers Infinity War comes out May 4th. So like 2 weeks before you're going to have Avengers Infinity War, that thing's going to dominate the box office probably, I'd say, the entire month up until when Solo: A Star Wars Story comes out. I think, I don't get me wrong, I think Deadpool 2 probably is going to make decent money, but I think it's put itself in a bad position between those two movies.
So would you say that in a fisticuffs match that Deadpool should go against Solo as opposed to Infinity War?
Gosh, that's tough because I mean, both of those movies are probably going to make $350 million at the box office. Maybe not. Now, Avengers Infinity War probably is going to make more than $350 million at the domestic box office.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's probably closer to 500 million or upwards. I mean, because this is a big culmination. There's going to be this one. There's going to be a second one, obviously. So like that one's going to just rake in the cash. It's going to go over $1 billion worldwide for sure. I'd say Solo's probably. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it brings in 250 million domestic and probably closer to $1 billion worldwide. Because you're going to open markets like in, Europe and China, obviously, and stuff like that. So, so putting Deadpool like right in between them, that could hurt because, let's be honest, a lot of moviegoers are only going to go see a few movies, right? They're going to say, oh, I got a date night, I got to go out and, get someone to watch the kids, or, I'm going to take a date out, we're going to do dinner. It's like most people aren't going to be like, well, I'm going to go see 3 big movies this month.
Right.
So maybe they'd see 2. Do you think they're going to pick Deadpool and then one of the others, or do you think it's going to be the other 2 properties that are owned by Disney?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that Deadpool would fall off, and it's in a tough spot, and obviously pushing it beyond Solo, I think would be tough as well. Just based on kind of what else is slated.
Man, in my opinion, if it was done and if it was ready, why not push it 2 weeks before Infinity War? Why not push it to like mid-April? Because then you could have 2 weeks where hopefully you're not going to, because you're going to have Black Panther earlier, and then you're going to have like Ready Player One like in mid-March. So like you come in like mid-April, you'd have a good solid 2, maybe 3 weeks before Infinity War comes out, all to yourself. Yeah. No competition.
I think you should be heading up one of these studios, my friend. So anyway.
Bob Iger at Disney, give me a call, man. We can talk. You have your people call my people.
Sponsored by Disney.
We'll do lunch.
Yeah, so we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, if I had my pick, and as well, we've talked about this before, but Deadpool has a certain audience that's going to go see it. Whereas, while some who would see Infinity War or Solo might see that by Deadpool, it just seems like it might be a different audience.
Sure. I have one last thing, Steve. And it's kind of a sad thing to talk about. It just happened today. This is like kind of like breaking news. But the lead singer of the Cranberries, Dolores O'Riordan, died today at age 46, and she died in London. Authorities said that it's kind of unconfirmed or unknown why she died. But Cranberries were a big band in the 90s. I mean, they had they had some big hits like Linger and Dreams and Zombie. I mean, they like the kind of like the middle like 90s, like 93, 94, 95, like you could not turn on MTV without seeing the Cranberries. You could not turn on like a rock, like an alternative radio station without hearing the Cranberries in heavy rotation. Like, I can picture so much of my youth, like dances and in the car and, like at the gym or, whatever, just like with Cranberries on the radio and playing. And so, anyway, it's kind of sad that this happened today, that obviously she was a very talented musician. The Cranberries, were kind of, like, they weren't as big as U2, obviously, but they were probably the next biggest thing to come out of Ireland music-wise since U2 came out.
And Riverdance.
Well, true. But anyway, so, our thoughts and prayers go out to, family and friends at this time, and, we're sad for her passing, and that obviously, the world's lost an artist today.
Well, and I think, somebody tweeted on out a few hours ago to say that, and I'll quote this, it says it threw into question what a voice could sound like in the context of rock. And it was pretty cool, because she used a lot of kind of the Irish, kind of the, I don't know if it's Gaelic or Celtic or whatever, but she used a lot of that kind of, I guess,
tonality and kind of,
in her music, and I don't think it was a traditional mix of what you think a rock voice should sound like, but it was unique and it definitely set them apart. And from 1989 when they formed, they were definitely a formidable band and dominated a lot of the scene in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's too bad.
Yeah, sad to hear. But the thing is, like with the Cranberries, like those three songs, like "Linger" and "Zombie" and "Dreams," like you just heard them so much. Like that sound, their band sounded like I can hear like a snippet, any snippet from any of like their songs, kind of in that era, and it's like, oh, this is the Cranberries, and people are like, really? Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, it's very, very distinct. Which at the time, there was a lot of bands that were starting to do newer things and kind of a newer sound, but they were very unique and very distinct.
Yeah, there's that Irish folk that kind of weaved in with the rock. So yeah,
right.
Well, very, very sad, but again, condolences to her family and those that are left behind.
Yeah.
So,
Steve, last week we had a talk, man. And we talked about the Golden Globes, man. We were talking about like award shows and kind of what we liked. And we asked our super friends to let us know, are you on board with award shows? Is it something you get into? Because I know some people do and some people don't. And so let's read some of those responses. Let's go to the old Twitter. What say you?
The old twit. Let's do it.
Okay. On Twitter, Backlog Buster Trash Turkey @TrashTurkey says, not a big fan of award shows. I still can't get over Beck's album Odelay losing to Celine Dion's Falling Into You album at the 1997 Grammys.
Wow. Gotta let some things go. Wherever you are.
Yeah. So, okay. I get it, You got turned off once. I remember when Metallica lost in 1991 for like best metal group or best hard rock group, and Jethro Tull won that year, and I was like, what the freak is this about? I'm like, that flute playing Jethro Tull? Come on. But
sometimes you gotta let it go, man. Sometimes you gotta let it go.
You do. Animation fan @dspin67 says, award shows? Rarely watch them. Fair enough.
Okay.
Brett T. Bodden @HopTongar says, this is me and my wife's guilty pleasure. We treat them like the Super Bowl, preparing our favorite foods and drinks. We even watched the red carpet pre-show and heckle actors we hate and ooh and ah the fashion. I'm a big fan of musicals, so this year I'm rooting for Greatest Showman.
Oh, this is like Joan and her daughter Rivers, man, just sitting making fun of everybody. I like it.
Let's see here. Backlog Buster Surge @backlog_blues. I haven't watched an award show since high school, and that was a VMA because I watched them to watch Marilyn Manson perform.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember, Steve, there was a girl we used to know in high school that, like, when the Oscars would come on, she would, like, throw, like, a big Oscar party, and, like, everyone would dress up and, like would dress up, like, to the nines, and they'd have all this food. Who was that? Alison Harbeck, maybe?
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
I remember going to like one of those or like talking about it or something. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
She's good people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, going over to the email, our friend Peter Christensen says, Dear nerds, congrats to everyone in the Hopper to Hellboy on a solid week. I too have set off the smoke alarms when searing steaks in butter. Sounds like I need to step up my broccoli game, though. I got a recipe for you, Peter. I can help you out. He says, I don't know your Swedish listener, but I bet he chuckled when you described Swedes as happy people. I served my Mormon mission, and I don't think Swedes think of themselves as happy. They're kind of proud of their cool, polite distance from strangers, but Swedish society is designed to protect everyone from the worst things that poor people and other rich countries have to deal with. So people live their life as a fair fight that some win and some lose, rather than being ruined by health problems, medical costs, lack of access to education, homelessness, etc.
Huh.
Interesting. He says, I will vouch for Jumanji being a good movie. Over Christmas, I saw it at the animated bull movie Ferdinand, and they were both the biggest movie surprises I've had in a long time. I had modest expectations, but I enjoyed them both very much. The casting in particular, everyone in Jumanji, John Cena was a huge cartoon bull, and Kate McKinnon as a crazy goat was outstanding. He says, I always think of Sam Rockwell as the punk at the end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that tells the cops where the Foot's stolen goods are.
Oh, yeah. That's a good call, Peter. Good call.
He says, award shows. No interest, no predictions. I enjoyed them around the time of Return of the King because the movies I watched and enjoyed actually won awards. But since then, I've seen very few of the nominated movies, so the awards are pretty meaningless to me. He says, cheers, Peter. You know, like I said last week, I actually like the Oscars because I like seeing them talk about movies and like everyone kind of rant and rave about, you know, like new movies, maybe movies I hadn't heard of, and then like go out and like find some new gems, like, you know, go see some things that maybe I wouldn't have seen before. And so, anyway.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for answering our question this week. We appreciate you taking the time out to respond to us. And once again, you can always respond to us, and that's going to be at our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, on Twitter, which is @fortofnerd, and then Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd. Steve, what can our super friends do to help us out this week?
They can rate us on iTunes so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as a ticket to Black Panther.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Sold out tickets everywhere. Can we get one for Lupita Nyong'o, please?
I'm so glad you took that one for Rebel Intelligence because I could not say her name.
Yeah. Speaking of names, I really have to apologize for last week. Guillermo. Guillermo. I don't know why, but I butchered it like 3 times. Bad.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Guillermo. Yeah, Guillermo. I mean, I just...
Hablo Espanol.
Right.
Spencer's Rosetta Stone is still in the mail. It got bumped when his movie pass card was in the mail. So
right, exactly.
Got delayed.
Exactly. Steve, so I was wondering, you remember a little while ago, we had this huge conversation about Star Wars, right? And when Lucasfilm sold the rights to Disney, around that time, they decanonized all of the Star Wars expanded universe. This was like all the books and the comics and everything that had kind of been written after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And
I remember that.
It's actually kind of come to light why now, because for a long time there's been a lot of fans that have really wondered, like, what was up? What was going on? Because, you know, there was a lot of really great stories, like the Thrawn trilogy books, you know, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, The Last Command. Like, I love those books. And I wanted those stories, you know, to be canon or, you know, to be retold or something. But the actual guy that's kind of like in charge of, we'll say the canoness, you know, the holocron of information when it comes to Lucasfilm. It's a man, let's see here. I'm trying to find his name. It's a man by the name of Leland Chee. And he works for Lucasfilm, and he's kind of the keeper of the keys. He's got his hand on everything. So what had happened was he did an interview with Sci-Fi, with the Sci-Fi Fandom Files podcast, I guess. And he was talking about what happened and why they decided to, because they realized they were going to do episode 7, right? They're going to do another movie. Well, there was a book that came out in 1999 called Vector Prime. It's by R.A. Salvatore. And in that, Chewbacca gets killed. So he's one of like the first kind of like main characters that gets killed. And he basically like sacrifices himself to save the youngest son of Han and Leia, which his name was Anakin Solo, which he goes by, obviously like Ben, something like that.
Right.
But Anakin Solo, instead of Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, it's kind of similar thing. They've got a kid, right? But the way he was killed was he had a moon dropped on him.
What?
Yeah, I know it's weird. It's
moon?
It's a thing. So he had a moon dropped on him, and that's why he was killed. And so when they were deciding, they said this one event was the thing that made them decide to decanonize everything, because they said, okay, if we went to go and have episode 7 and Chewbacca's not in it and Chewbacca's not with Han, we then have to tell why Chewbacca's not there, that basically he died because a moon was dropped on him. And how do you really explain that succinctly and quickly in maybe, a single scene that maybe is like, a minute, 2 minutes long? It says, Chewie had a moon dropped on. I mean, no one's going to believe it. Everyone's going to think it's a joke and, whatnot. But basically the death by moon for Chewbacca was like the moment they went, okay, this won't work because we've got to then, have to try to do all this back-telling of story in the films, and it's not just going to work for us.
Wow. Well, you think about that. I mean, I've heard, some people in Sycamore during Homecoming almost died from a death by mooning. But that's different. This is what would happen though. I mean, if you didn't have Chewbacca, I'm thinking it's a merchandising nightmare. I mean, merchandising, to quote the immortal Mel Brooks. What would you do without? I mean, the woman on Facebook with a mask. I mean, it would be cataclysmic.
Right, because obviously he's a bigger character, and he was one of the first ones that got killed off in the EU. So what do you do? I mean, my kids have like Chewbacca like hoodies and jackets,
pillowcases, and
right,
hairy onesies for zip up pajamas with the footies, and L'Oreal. It was their first spokesperson.
Right, but like that. But that's a very interesting thing though, because like the associated toys, like the associated like spin-offs and like the lunch boxes and the plates and the cups and stuff, like that's like stuff like you get the young kids hooked on, right? I mean,
and that's probably a huge moneymaker for them too.
Absolutely. It's a huge moneymaker. So like, you'd be sacrificing that. Now, I mean, they could have probably told their way around it, but my guess is that obviously they didn't want to take the time. They didn't want to figure that out. But yeah, man, merchandise. I mean, think about it, Steve.
Oh my gosh.
Like when you were growing up, how many times like did you watch something because of a toy?
Yeah. I mean, or I watched something and then bought the toy, right? I mean, like You think about the original like He-Man, cartoons and whatnot. I mean, I think
Adam,
they came out before
Prince of Eternia.
Yeah, they came out way before the toys did. I mean, they were half an hour commercials,
right?
I mean, so I think life followed art in that scenario, and they worked their what's it called? Their mind meld, their subliminal messages. Buy our toys.
Right, exactly. Kids,
and Coca-Cola.
You need this. You need this. Let me ask you, have you seen, there's a new Netflix documentary called The Toys That Made Us? Have you seen that yet on Netflix?
I have not seen it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, so like it just came out, I think, towards the end of December. I saw it and I kind of saw like a little preview. I was like, oh, I'm going to put that on my to watch list and watch it. But like I've been looking at it a little bit more. It's really kind of interesting because it's like 4 episodes that came out, and they basically like follow like certain toys. Like there's Star Wars toys, that's an episode. Mm-hmm. Barbie's an episode. He-Man and G.I. Joe are all episodes.
In the first season.
In the first season. And then the second season, they're going to come out and they're going to talk about Hello Kitty, Transformers, Lego, and Star Trek. And what I've heard from some people I've heard from some people already, like, hey, go watch this. And every single time, like, I see it, I'm like, yeah, I need to watch this, because, like, toys were a big part of our childhood. And obviously these were like toys that were based around TV shows or movies. And so, like, you have all the kind of tie-ins. But here's something very interesting I heard, and now I definitely want to go watch this thing, is that you remember the story, and this has been told over and over and over again, that there was like a lawyer that worked for Fox, right? And he basically, in order to try to cut a better deal for the studio, he gave up the rights for the toy line of the Star Wars toys and, like, gave George Lucas the rights. And of course, George Lucas marketed the crap and made all these toys and licensed everything he could, and has made billions upon billions upon billions of dollars on toys and, t-shirts and lunch pails and anything Star Wars could go on. The lawyer that was involved in that, the lawyer that negotiated the licensing deal between, like, Kenner and Star Wars and all that.
Please tell me it was the actor from Goonies, the Chunk.
Oh, man, I wish.
Turned into a Hollywood attorney.
No, but apparently he's never given any interviews. He's never talked to anyone about it after this thing. And apparently, I guess in this first episode, like, the people that did this documentary, the Toys That Made Us, like, they talked to him and they worked with him, and they eventually got him to sit down and do an interview. And apparently not only he did the interview, but, like, he gave, like, details, like very gave in-depth details, and actually even had, like, the original, like, agreement, like the paper agreement of, like, what it was in the negotiations. And apparently, like, this is all in there. So, like, now, like, my curiosity is, like, at a 10.
Yeah, just to see that alone, I think would be kind of cool.
Like, I'm willing to put aside everything else, but, like, you think about it, like, G.I. Joes, right? How many G.I. Joes would you say you had growing up?
I wasn't as big into G.I. Joes, but I probably had maybe 20 or 30.
I probably had somewhere around there as well.
20. Yeah.
I always think of that scene of what's that movie? The Boy Who Could Fly. Do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah.
Where like the one
puts the pea in the squirt gun.
Yes, that Fred Savage riding around on his little Hot Wheels, but, like, he also was, like, playing with G.I. Joes out in the backyard. He was killing them and burying them, and, like, the rain comes, like, no, I gotta find him.
That's
they're all gonna wash.
They
were gonna wash away anyway.
That's a great scene.
I remember playing with G.I. Joes in my backyard, but I remember burying a couple, but it was never for more than, like, 5 minutes. I didn't, like, leave them out there with, like, little grave markers or anything.
Well, because sometimes the little rubber band that held their torso together would snap, and you're like, oh no.
And then you got 5 pieces that used to be a G.I. Joe, or 6 pieces, like head, torso, 2 arms, 2 legs, and you're like,
that's called a choking hazard. Thank you, China.
We always had those as the ones that got, that jumped on a grenade and sacrificed themselves.
Purple Heart, boom shakalaka.
Right, exactly. Man, Flint gave his life again. Time to go get another Flint.
Yeah, but you think about some of those toys, though. It's just nostalgia, like, alley.
Well, here's the cool thing, like, about G.I. Joe. Like, G.I. Joe started, like, way, way, way earlier, right? Like, G.I. Joe's originally started, like, in 1964. Like, I think of them and I think of the 80s, but, like, they started in 64. It was kind of like they tried, like, a marketing guy tried to find, like, the equivalent to the Barbie for boys, like, a masculine doll. And, like, apparently, like, in 1978, pretty much the sales were, like, declining, and there was, like, big oil crisis, obviously, that time, Jimmy Carter and rationing. But basically, like, they held on to it, and, like, when the kind of the Reagan era Cold War, they revived it as G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero in 82, and then it made $51 million that first year. Made over $51 million that first year in 1982, whereas, like, they were barely keeping any sales alive. And they tracked down, like, the guys that were part of this and, like, the original marketing guys for this thing. So, like, this documentary is not just, like, a bunch of, like, maybe necessarily, like, fans or celebrities talking about the toys they loved and kind of, like, what it meant to them, but it's actually, like, like people that were involved in like creating the toys and marketing the toys.
It sounds like they're going deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward to watching this thing, man. I can't wait to get my eyeballs on this.
And you said Legos was in the first season.
That's the second season.
Oh, the second season. Okay, because I had heard that Legos, when they were first, in production or whatever, they were actually close to like going out of business.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that'll be touched on and just kind of, the history, almost kind of like the Reese's and M&M's thing with E.T., like,
Right, I would imagine so, because I know that there was a documentary that I watched with Brita years ago that was on Netflix called like Lego, maybe it's called Lego or like Lego: A True Story. That kind of talked about the history of the company. Steve, do you remember like the original Legos like we got as kids? Like they didn't have like branded stuff. Like you don't remember like Star Wars stuff, do you?
No, man, they would come in those big red plastic boxes with the hinge on the top, like a hood, and they would have like 500 pieces of random stuff.
Right, or you got like built a generic like house or a police car.
Police station.
Yeah. Gas station. I remember building a gas station in Ed Richter's basement, and I was like, what the crap is this?
And the sign just said, gas.
Or petrol, maybe it said. I don't know.
Oh, the Europeans. Yeah, it's made in Sweden, so...
It's interesting, I really wonder if the licensing, because now you can find Legos and like everything, like Harry Potter and Star Trek and Star Wars and Minecraft. Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if that'll be a part of that. Now that's going to be in the second season when they talk about Legos. I also hear they're going to be talking about Transformers in the second season.
Oh, now you're speaking my language. And Optimus Prime.
So they got like the guy who helped design the original Optimus Prime to come in and talk about it. But here's the thing: I'm reading this thing. It says that the guy is a Japanese gentleman named, I'm going to try this here, Kichiro Sakuma.
Nice.
And he doesn't speak a word of English. And so like they had to like figure out things and like kind of describe his demeanor and whatnot, and like, talking to him. And like, I guess the guy couldn't actually believe that Netflix wanted to talk to him about it. But they also got Michael Bay, which is a big director, to talk about Transformers, because obviously he made a whole movie franchise based on toys, based on a cartoon to sell toys.
It's full circle. It's come full circle.
So yeah,
that's very cool.
Lots of stuff coming up.
Did you have Transformers as a kid?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I remember having Optimus Prime, and I remember I had an Optimus Prime that he had like this like little mini tape deck that would like come out like those
out of his chest.
Yeah, and the tape
and
deck
be a
would
little
like
bird.
So it would turn into this little transformer.
Heck yes.
So like I remember that wasn't like the original design. Like that was maybe like the second or third. It was after a little bit after Transformers. But it was interesting because like tonight, as I went and picked up the kids. Burrito was sick tonight, so I picked up the kids, and they're like, Daddy, I want to listen to Scooby-Doo. I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, Scooby-Doo. And so I turned on, I put it on the Bluetooth so they could hear it, and I turned on like the Scooby-Doo theme song on my phone, and they listened to it, and then like right after that, it played like this 15-minute clip of like all these like cartoon, like 1980s, early 90s theme songs, and like obviously Transformers was one of them. And so like I was like bopping along to that, and they were kind of like listening to it, just kind of maybe indulging their dad because they just wanted to listen to Scooby-Doo again. But it was cool, like just like there's certain songs to some of these toys, like the G.I. Joe song, right? Like I can't not hear that, like the inner kid inside of me just smiles because like that was a moment in time.
American hero.
G.I. Joe was there. G.I. Joe.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
We were just getting out of the car last night and getting the kids out of it. Maybe it was at church. And Carrie looked at the back of some car that was in our parking lot, and there was a few stickers in the back of like high school and this, that, and the other. And one of the logos is this green circle with this cat's silhouette in it. And she's like, wouldn't that be kind of weird if your logo for your high school is the same as Thundercats? I was like, nice reference, Care.
Yeah.
You just got brownie points with old Madura. You look very attractive right now.
You're saying you were willing to get frisky because she recognized a Thundercats reference?
Heck yes. Sword of Omens, Thundercat. Oh!
Wow. So let me ask you this. Are you going to try to get her to cosplay as Chitara?
No, Wily Kit.
Oh,
I'm just
Wily Kit. Snarf, snarf, snarf.
I was going to play Mom Ra.
Mom Ra. Anyway. Wow. So let me ask you this, Steve. Was there like one toy as a kid? Because I want to segue off that because we're going to get ourselves in trouble with our wives, or most importantly with your wife here soon. So let's move on. Right. Was there like one toy though, like that you wanted, like as a kid?
Yes. It was the same one that every boy wanted whose parents didn't love them enough. And it was the iconic G.I. Joe USS Flag, the aircraft carrier modeled after the actual Chester Nimitz class warship deployed by the U.S. Navy.
Yes. I wanted that thing. I wanted that thing so bad.
It was like 7 feet long.
Yes.
It could hold like 3 or 4 of the G.I. Joe planes, which were not small planes.
No, not at all.
That was, the Stoddards, which were a rich family that lived 2 doors down from me, had it. And I would go over and just oogle it. Ogle it. Ogle?
Ogle?
Ogle? Is it ogle?
Ogle, oogle, ogle, oogle,
Is it
Google?
goggle?
Google?
I Googled it. I coined the phrase back in the
late 1980s.
1980s, right?
So I have this like really funny story. How to put this? I had a love of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Ooh. And I wanted a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle so bad. The year was like 1990, and I wanted one of these things. And I was playing on a Little League team. Now, I gotta be honest, while I have some natural athletic ability at most sports, baseball was not one of them at that time. My dad kind of, just, I'm not gonna say my dad wasn't around, because my dad was around, but like, my dad didn't spend time with me, like practicing, like playing catch or playing baseball really, because, it just wasn't something maybe he had time for. I mean, I know he was really busy and, was probably trying to get his own company off the ground at the time. But I was in Little League, and I sucked. I was horrible. I'd gone through almost the entire season without a hit. I would be out in right field, which is where they put kids that,
picking the dandelions.
Exactly. Like I remember like kicking like ruts in the grass, and finally like a ball would get me hit on my like Spencer, and I would put my glove up, but like I'm trying to like shield my face and my nuts at the same time because I don't want to get hit by this thing. And I'm like, I can't catch this thing. The best I can do is like slow it down with my body and then try to throw it back into second base. So my dad would try to help teach me how to catch like in between innings when we were supposed to be, sitting there waiting for our turn, which don't get me started. Like that's extremely embarrassing. Is like, you're the one kid on the team that your dad's trying to teach you how to play in the middle of a game. And I know he meant well. And
that was me. I did the same
really?
thing with my boys.
Oh,
I'm that dad.
Oh, don't do that.
Let's go over in the, around the corner, son. I'm going to teach you a few things.
That's a scarring moment, by the way. I'm just telling you right now.
It's already been done. The deed's been done.
Yeah, your kids are going to need some therapy time on the couch. So anyway, my dad made me this promise. He's like, listen, if you can get a base hit, just one base hit, he's like, I will take you out for pizza and I'll get you whatever Ninja Turtle toy you want. And I was like, oh, really? So like for like the second half of the season, I was a man on a mission. I was determined to get a base hit.
He bribed you so that he could feel as a good father.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. I don't want my kid to suck.
And so I remember the play. I remember what happened. Basically, I took this was like, I don't know. This was like
Casey at bat, like every bat. You're just like swinging for the fences. Dude, I can picture it now.
Dude, I was actually good at two things: striking out and getting walked. Those were the things.
You had a small strike zone. What can you say?
Let me tell you, when I got walked, man, I was a stealing machine. I remember I stole home in a little league game, and Mike Dunker.
Jason Dunker.
Jason Dunker was the older one. Mike Dunker, I think, is the younger brother. Jason Dunker, like, was the catcher for that team, and like they threw the ball in, and he had to jump up like really high to catch it, and like I slid under him, and his cleat and his foot came in like and like cleated me in the head and like got between me and the helmet, and like knocked the helmet off. But I was safe at home base, and like I stole freaking home. I've done that in my life.
That is awesome.
Of course, I got walked to get on base, but anyway, the story is,
and you have a metal plate in your head because the plastic one wasn't as strong and it messed up your hairline.
That's right. I was the hero of my team that day because I was the worst kid on that team all season long. Anyway, the day I got my hit, I remember I took a monster swing. I was aiming to put this out of the ballpark, which I'd never had a hit yet. So I don't know why I'm swinging like Babe Ruth, but I swing with everything that I have. And I pretty much tip foul it, but it manages to go down the left field line and stay in. And so it's basically the equivalent of a bunt. But like that was my hit because I just barely got a piece of it. And I tore towards first, just running with everything that I had. I was like
tore turd.
I tore towards first.
I crap my pants.
I left my cleats at home plate and just like took off. I mean, I was Wile E. Coyote. I mean, I'm speeding, my legs are pumping, and I barely beat out the tag at first base, and I get on base. And I remember I just started jumping and screaming like I'd won the freaking like pennant or like the World Series. And
you just like walk off the field. You're like, my deed is done.
Everyone's like looking at me, and I'm like, I don't care what happens now. I got that Ninja Turtle. I got that Ninja Turtle. And true to his word, my dad later that day took us out to lunch, Pizza Villa. For lunch, because we had a morning game. And then he took me down to Ben Franklin, downtown Sycamore, and I bought Michelangelo, the Ninja Turtle, and that was my first Ninja Turtle that I ever got. And let me tell you, I have never worked harder for a toy in my life.
And that day, Spencer, you became a man.
Muzzle
awesome, because as a father, you know, sometimes you like do anything. You'd be like, please. For all the other fathers that are watching me, please.
Right.
That is awesome. So I have a bit of a tale to tell, a flaxen, golden, thread to weave.
Spin your yarn, sir.
So it was the year was 90 something, 1 maybe 2, who knows. I was young but old enough to know better. And I had a friend, Chris Knapp, who was an avid Star Wars collector. He had a lot of different toys and whatnot. He was an avid collector. And he and I, we would run amok sometimes. We would travel about the neighborhood looking for mischievous things to get into and so what. And one day we came upon this barn that was sat behind a house, and it was in our neighborhood. It was probably a block or two away from his house. And we lived basically a block away from one another. So one day we were being our usually mischievous selves, and we sad to say broke into this barn.
Ooh, a little B&E.
We found a little B&E. We broke in, found a window, kind of broke in, and we were really just kind of looking for adventure. We weren't looking to do anything bad. But as luck would have it, badness found us. And so we were looking, and it was this old barn. There was like a car over to one side, an old car under a tarp. There was a tractor. There was some equipment. There was some yard tools and whatnot. But right in the center, almost like waiting for us, calling our name,
like the Holy Grail.
Yes, it was like Indiana Jones with a little sandbag, and were these trash bags. There were probably I want to say 5 or 6 trash bags, full-size trash bags that had been tied off at the top. And, like, oh gosh, I wonder what's in these. We opened them up, and we literally found the Holy Grail for children. They were filled with Star Wars toys to the brim. Oh. Everything from a B-wing and a Y-wing and an X-wing. Boba Fett ship was in
Slave
it.
One?
All these action figures. I mean, it was goldmine, right? Jackpot. So we made a plan, and again, I am airing my dirty laundry. I am not a perfect man, and now. We made a plan to come back later that night or later that week or whatever and steal the wares. So
Wow.
So we came back, we emptied them out, we took all of the bags, we brought them back to Chris's house, and I don't know to this day how his mom didn't be like, how did your collection expand threefold overnight?
Right. Well, Mom,
Anyway.
we cased out this barn, see?
Exactly. Old man Withers, who runs the haunted amusement park. So anyway, so we did the whole thing, and Chris kept everything but 3 things. There were 3 die-cast ships. They were die-cast metal ships. They were small. They were probably half a foot long each. One was a Star Destroyer, who had a little compartment below where you could get Princess Leia's ship out.
The Tanta 4?
If you say so.
Was it actually in there?
Yeah, it was actually in
Oh.
there. Yeah, there was an X-wing, and then there was the Millennium Falcon. And so I kept these things and I put them up on my entertainment center in my bedroom, and they just stayed there for, I guess, what would be years. So fast forward till I am 20 years old, and I'm getting ready to serve my mission for our church out in Seattle. And so before you go on a mission, you sit down with the head of your congregation. He asks you certain questions, interviews to make sure you're ready to go and prepared and all the rest. And the one question he asks was this: is there anything that you need to take care of before you go? What he said, unrepented sins, but anything that you need to take care of before you go that hasn't been resolved? And immediately, like my mind's right back to my entertainment center with those 3 die-cast ships.
Wow.
I'm like, yes, Bishop. Yes, there is. And so I go, and I go home, and it's a small thing. But it came to my mind, and I thought, you know what, I got to take care of this. So I take these die-cast ships, and I walk the block down. I probably drove down to this house. I knock on the door, and this woman opens the door, and immediately I go into this diatribe of like, when I was 13 years old, I went out and broke into the back of your barn. I'm so sorry. My buddy and I did it. I took these things, and I go into this whole long thing, like 5 minutes long, and I'm like, and here they are. I was like Chunk from Goonies, and then I made this noise, and everybody started puking. And then I was puking.
Yeah.
And so I go, and she's like, honey. She's like, I'm sorry, but that family moved away years ago. And I was like, no! And it was a lesson to me that I will never forget. And I tell this to the youth that I teach: never wait to make something right in your life, because sometimes the chance will pass you by.
So let me ask you this question: do you still have those toys?
I don't.
What did you do with them?
I think I gave them to a kid that I thought would like them, or Salvation Army or something.
Do you know that each of those are worth $100,000 right now?
Shut.
They're limited edition collectors. I'm just teasing.
I just looked it up on you.
Right.
The other lesson, kids, is crime pays.
Right, exactly.
To the tune of $300,000.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
that's my story.
It's just really interesting, because Steve, you and I grew up in this, obviously with the same age, we grew up in this time where toys and merchandise based on TV and films was a massive, huge thing. And obviously that's continued on and on. It really hasn't stopped. But this documentary, The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, highlights specific toys that maybe define some generations and were big movers in the market that really kind of helped usher in what would become, the toy and collectible, markets for years and years and years to come. So
Right.
If you guys haven't seen it yet, I haven't seen it, but I've seen a bunch of trailers on it and read stuff that's been written about it. The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. I think that's going to be worth your time to go out and watch that. I really do.
Definitely. I will say, on a small side note, I just looked them up, and they're worth $361.
Oh, well.
But that's the whole collection. That's also a TIE fighter they didn't have, and Darth Vader.
Chris
ship.
Knapp still has
That's
those.
I bet he does. Jerk.
So you know what, Steve? Let's do this. For our question of the week for our super friends, I want to hear, let's take a trip down memory lane with you guys. Let's hit that nostalgia. What is a toy that defined your childhood? Maybe it was something, based off a cartoon, maybe it's something based off a movie, maybe it was just a toy, maybe you were into I don't know, the hardware stuff. Like, you had the little toy set with the hammer and like the little nails that you put into the wood blocks that already had like the pre-drilled holes, whatever it may be. Let us know, like, what was a toy that defined your youth and your generation, in your mind, something that you loved or had a great, connection to. And you can let us know. Let's do this, same places as always. You can get us on the email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. Twitter, which is @FortofNerd, Facebook, which is facebook.com/FortofNerd, or if you have a little bit longer of a story to tell and you want to give us some audio, you can do that by 801-477-7687 and give us a call and leave us a message. And we will talk about those next week. I'm excited to see what other people, because like I know I had a ton of this kind of stuff, but I imagine we got some of our super friends out there that got some pretty cool stuff as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, as always, Mr. Stapleton, a pleasure to be with you.
Same with you, Mr. Madura.
The pleasure is all mine. All right. Well, I think we should sign this mother off. So with that, may the force be with you always.